Hi, hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. Today let's talk about the famous English playwright, Thomas Kidd. Thomas Kidd, 1558-1594. Thomas Kidd was a pioneering Elizabethan playwright best known for his revenge tragedy titled The Spanish Tragedy. His works laid the foundation for later playwrights including William Shakespeare, John Webster, and John Middleton. Thomas Kidd was born in 1558 in London as the son of Francis Kidd, who was a scrivener. A scrivener means legal document writer. Thomas Kidd attended Merchant Taylor School, where he studied Latin, Greek, and classical literature. Unlike many of his contemporaries, Thomas Kidd did not attend a university. By the late 1580s, Thomas Kidd was an established playwright, though few of his works survive. Thomas Kidd possibly worked as a translator and collaborated with other dramatists. He wrote plays for Philip Henslow's company, one of the leading theatre managers in London. Thomas Kidd's arrest and controversy during the times of 1593 and 1594. In 1593, Thomas Kidd was arrested for heresy after government agents found blasphemous papers in his lodgings. Under torture, Thomas Kidd claimed the paper belonged to Christopher Marlowe, another writer with whom he had shared rooms. Thomas Kidd was never fully cleared of the accusations and died in poverty in 1594, aged around 35 or 36 years old. Now let's have a look at the major works and contributions of Thomas Kidd as a writer. First of all, his most famous play, that is The Spanish Tragedy, written around 1587 and 1592. The Spanish Tragedy is a defining revenge tragedy. The play follows the character Hieronymo, the Knight Marshal of Spain, as he seeks revenge for the murder of his son Horatio. Hieronymo's descent into grief, madness, and a cunning vengeance forms the core of the tragedy. The play features a ghostly figure named Dun Antria, deception, a play within a play, and a gruesome killings in the final act. The next play, that is the lost play, or Hamlet, written around the 1580s. Thomas Kidd is suspected to have written a now lost play called Ur Hamlet, a possible source for William Shakespeare's play Hamlet. Descriptions suggest it included a ghost and themes of revenge elements found in the Spanish tragedy. Some believe Christopher Marlowe or another playwright may have written it, but Thomas Kidd remains the strongest candidate. The next work is Arden of Feversham, published in 1592, a domestic tragedy, possibly attributed to Thomas Kidd. Arden of Feversham is a true crime play based on a murder of Thomas Arden by his wife Alice and her lover. Unlike the Spanish tragedy, this play focuses on domestic crime rather than noble revenge. While anonymous, some scholars argue that Thomas Kidd wrote it or contributed to parts of it. The next work is Soliman and Perzeda, written around 1588 or 1592. Soliman and Perzeda is a tragic romance, possible attribution. It is a tragic love story about the Ottoman Sultan Soliman and the Greek maiden Perzeda. And this play contains elements of revenge, jealousy, and a courtly intrigue similar to the Spanish tragedy. Though attributed to an anonymous author, many scholars link it to Thomas Kidd due to stylistic similarities. The next work attributed to Thomas Kidd is Cornelia, published around 1594. It is a classical tragedy, a translation of a French tragedy by Robert Garnier, focusing on Cornelia, the widow of Pompey the Great. The play deals with a stoic virtue, loss, and the fall of great men, themes Thomas Kidd frequently explored. Published in 1594, shortly before his death, and it is one of the few works directly credited to Thomas Kidd. Now let's have a look at the writing style and the contributions of Thomas Kidd. Revenge tragedy innovations. Thomas Kidd helped establish key conventions of the revenge tragedy, later perfected by William Shakespeare and John Webster. A vengeful protagonist, for example, as we can see the character Hieronymo, torn between justice and revenge. Then in the revenge tradition of tragedies initiated by Thomas Kidd, we can see the supernatural elements like a ghost, as we can see the character Dun Antria, mirroring Hamlet's ghost in a Shakespeare's play. Then we can also see a play within a play to expose the guilty, directly inspiring Shakespeare's work, Hamlet. Then in the revenge tragedy tradition, we can see intense emotions and psychological depth, particularly in expressions of grief and madness. Now let's analyze the influence of the Roman tragedian Seneca on the writer Thomas Kidd. Thomas Kidd followed a Senecan drama using soliloquies to explore characters' inner thoughts, long poetic speeches, and philosophical reflections, then on-stage violence and horror. Then a fast-paced, action-driven drama. Unlike Christopher Marlowe's philosophical musings, Thomas Kidd's plays focus on suspense, murder, and betrayal. His style paved the way for the sensationalism of Jacobean drama, for example, as we can see in The Duchess of Malfi. Now the influence and legacy of Thomas Kidd as a writer. Shakespearean influence. Hamlet borrows heavily from the Spanish tragedy, particularly in its ghost revenge theme and a play within a play device. Shakespeare's work, Titus Andronicus, adopts Thomas Kidd's graphic violence and spectacle. Shakespeare's another work, that is Othello, echoes Thomas Kidd's psychological complexity in a revenge plot. Now let's analyze Thomas Kidd's legacy in later drama. Thomas Kidd's revenge tragedy formula influenced John Webster's work, especially The White Devil, and John Middleton's work, The Revenger's Tragedy. Even modern revenge thrillers follow Thomas Kidd's structure of betrayal, emotional torment, and a climatic revenge. Now, the death and a posthumous recognition of Thomas Kidd as a writer. Thomas Kidd's career was cut short due to his imprisonment and disgrace. After his death in 1594, Thomas Kidd's works faded into obscurity until rediscovered in the 18th and 19th centuries. Today, he is recognized as one of the most important early English tragedians, a key link between Christopher Marlowe and William Shakespeare.